Mr. Speaker, I wasn't actually going to take a call tonight until I heard the speech by Mr. Grant Robinson. And I think that speech, the sophistry of that speech, actually explains why that party is sitting over there. They simply have failed to understand New Zealand's anger about crime and the lack of punishment for offences. And I'm offended, Mr. Speaker, when I hear Mr. Robinson look around this House and refer to what citizens of this nation died for the right to vote. They did not die to enable, they did not serve their country to enable those people who have lost their liberty in this nation because they offended against society to vote. Can I say to Mr. Robinson this? There are consequences of crime, and if you are sentenced to jail, you lose the most fundamental of your rights, and that is the right to be free in your own society. It is surely logical and appropriate for the time that you are incarcerated, and only that period of time, I hasten to add, quite different to the United States, as Mr. Robinson well knows, for that period of time, you also do not have the right to vote. Mr. Speaker, one of the points that Mr. Robinson fails to understand, it seems, is that imprisonment has a number of purposes. One of those purposes is punishment. Another of those purposes is deterrence. And for the serial offender, the offender who regularly goes to jail, if they understand that one of the rights they lose is the right to vote, then that will add a lesson not just to that individual actually, but more accurately to other people who offend, that there are consequences for offending. And can I also say to Mr. Robinson this? It actually does no service to the victims to say, well, actually, punishment is only partial. That whilst you might be incarcerated, you still have the rights of any other free citizen, and that one of those rights is to vote. That is actually offensive for that member to suggest to victims of crimes that there's an equality of rights here, that whether you're a victim or an offender in jail, that why not both vote? After all, there is an equality. Well, I think that, Mr. Speaker, that fundamentally misunderstands one of the fundamental consequences of imprisonment. And one of those consequences is the loss of right to vote. Now, Mr. Quinn compared New Zealand to other societies, including the United States. We would never go to the point, and I want to say this to the other side of the House, we would never go to the point on this side of the House in saying to those people who have offended and been incarcerated that you should lose the right to vote for the balance of your natural life. That is something that would be offensive to liberties. But whilst you are incarcerated, during that period of time, the right to vote is one of the things that you do lose. You regain it when you're released, when you regain the rights of full citizenship. And one of the fundamental rights of citizenship is liberty. But it's conditional. It's conditional on not offending to a point where you're incarcerated. So, Mr. Speaker, I do want to contrast our position on this side of the House and that of the government with that of the opposition's, which seems to indicate, by that last speech in particular, a lack of understanding why they are there and we are here, and the reason is that we understand that one of the consequences of crime, it can be imprisonment, and one of those consequences is the loss of all rights that other citizens, some rights, not all rights, rights that many other citizens enjoy. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this bill because it is an appropriate response for those who are offended most deeply against our society, which results in imprisonment.
I call Chris